It's time for a little Saturday morning fun time! Brought to you by Fuel Up Hydration System. Fuel Up helps keep you hydrated and energized throughout the day and relaxes you at night. Fuel Up is your 24-hour hydration system. Your show manager is Martin Acosta Santana and John Aaron Schmidt. And your producer is Bill Skywatcher. I'm your announcer, the Comic Relief Crusader. And now, your hosts, Tom and Gerry. Gary.
It's not rocket science. Just say yes and we'll move on.
It is not rocket science. It's YouTubery. And Tom will be here in a few moments. If a lot of you don't know that we have a custody arrangement with the Salty Nerds. They get him so much time and then we get him the rest of the time. when they drop him, there he is. Tom's here now.
Sorry about that.
No. I was just joking how we have a custody arrangement with Salty Nerds that they get you for a while, then we get you for a
Yes,
while.
it is.
Okay, I'm arranging him in the center. Stop it. He's the center square. RazorFist is Paul Lynde today. Hollywood Squares.
Just not as gay.
Not as gay.
Us is being the operative word.
Anyway, it is Saturday morning fun time. Tom and Gerry today. We are honored to have Andre with us today too. Andre is here from the wonderful country of Norway, not to be mistaken with Sweden. And of course, RazorFist is here from the fiery flames of hell, which is also known as Arizona. So I don't know, Razor, are you here yet? Because I know you stepped away for a minute. He's not here. We also have our good friends Das Wolfen. Das Wolfen is here, yeah. And then, of course, Shinatsky. And we love Shinatsky so much, we made a banner for him. You want to play that banner, Martin?
Oh, yeah.
And
I love you, Gary.
That's how much we love you. Fuck you, Shinatsky. And then, of course, we have our good friend Deleted Scenes, a.k.a. my good friend Stephen. And then Martin is here as show manager. Sadly, Bill is not here. Bill had a full week off, man. He's off doing UFO stuff in, I think, New York. Isn't that it, Martin?
Yeah, well, sadly for us, he's having a ball.
He's having a blast up there. He's with a bunch of the UFO celebs, people well known in the UFO community. And we're going to have a couple of them on this coming Wednesday. Hopefully get to hash out some stuff with Mike Barra, because that dude, oh, man, he irked me with the whole being a moon landing denier. But we've got a good show here today. We're going to be talking about probably one of the, I'm not going to say the greatest film from 82, but it is one of the top.
The greatest film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, Arnold. It is true. It is
from
very
1982.
gay.
Yeah.
And it's, of course, Conan the Barbarian.
I was ahead of the time. I was having babies before other men could have babies. That's right.
And Junior, it's a good film.
Screw you, freedom.
Screw you, freedom. You think he'll ever live that down? I don't think.
I already apologize. What more do you want from me?
I don't think you'll ever live it down, Arnold. Don't think you can do it.
This is just FUBAR. It's all FUBAR, which is also the name of my brand new show. Check it out.
Which is terrible show.
Isn't that show basically like True Lies, but they said the daughter is the one, and the daughter's the spy also?
Oh, that's funny. I've been hearing mostly good stuff about it. I'll check. I'm sorry to hear that.
I couldn't stand it the first few episodes. It got better once you got to episode 3, because the daughter stepped being such a see you next Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it got a little more fun.
We have a bridge from David Martin.
Oh, great. You can play the video, but I don't have it set up. So we're in the other studio.
Oh. Well, I think we won't be playing any videos.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No videos today because we're doing Conan. Conan is in itself
Blazing.
the backdoor of action adventure fantasy.
Well, I gotta blame Andre for me being here today because I was never really a huge Conan fan before I became part of Midnight's Edge, and I know that sounds sacrilegious, but
yeah, face the wall.
I know, right? He-Man was enough manly, almost homoeroticness for me. No, I was aware of Conan. I didn't think it was bad or didn't hate it, and I just never dove into it. I think I'd seen the original Schwarzenegger movie way back when I was a kid. But Andre gave me a crash course pretty darn quick on everything Conan, so
Well, I would
can
say
almost
you
consider
got the,
myself a pro at this point.
Yeah, you got the most extensive crash course there ever could be because you were the one editing our epic, if I dare say so myself, Ultimate Conan the Barbarian retrospective,
which is
lasting
absolutely a
almost
great
50
video.
minutes.
If you guys know the link, have the link, I want to share that out because I've seen that thing multiple times.
Wasn't that the video that got the attention of Frederick Malmberg?
No, that
or was it an earlier
that was
one?
another one. That was an earlier one. But yeah, no, that certainly sealed the deal. And because I would argue that it is the most. I'm not going to be shy about it. It is the single most comprehensive video documentary on this movie ever made, and Tom edited it. So that was something of a crash course. Learning what is Frazetta and what's Earl Northam and what are the other artists and the books and everything.
The differences and
yeah. So
well, not only that, you know what's weird
course.
is I've only seen like this movie like 3 times in total, like actual sitting down and watching it. But I can tell you the whole movie, right? Like I know almost all the scenes, some of the best lines in the movie and stuff. I mean, Arnold only has like 5 lines in the whole movie, but you know,
yeah. Right. Which, once Melia started dealing with Arnold as, casting the part, I think there was a quick realization that we really got to make him a man of action.
Yeah. Well, and
That's
I think
exactly
the bigger point
right.
here
And,
is... no, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. No. I want to let you go.
Yeah, no, because to talk about this movie, we actually have to go a little bit further back in time because John Milius, although he allegedly was the very first director that they wanted, he was a relatively late arrival because he had other commitments. So when the producer and all of the people that actually made the movie happen, because this movie, Conan the Barbarian, it didn't start out as a studio picture. It started out from an independent producer who basically was visiting a friend who introduced him to Conan the Barbarian. He wasn't familiar with Conan before. He knew of the books. He had seen the covers and everything, but he didn't know anything. But this friend then showed him the comics. And he browsed through these comics. He read a few of them, and that's when he realized that, whoa, we are actually dealing with a fully realized world right here.
Yeah.
And then he started doing some more research, and he saw that this right here, this is the perfect material for a movie. It's all here. All we have to do is bring it to the screen. And that is then how it kind of started. This producer, he contacted Roy Thomas of the of Marvel Comics and had him connect with all of the other important rights holders that then could go on to form Conan Properties Inc. specifically, so that he had someone to negotiate the rights with. And after a script draft by Roy Thomas himself that didn't lead anywhere, they contacted Oliver Stone. And Oliver Stone, he wrote like the first really huge comprehensive draft, which John Milius later rewrote into his movie, mostly by exercising some elements that Oliver Stone had put in there.
I've never asked this before, but do you think, Andre, that Oliver Stone might have ended up directing the film had he been Oliver Stone yet?
Yes, probably.
Because you got to remember this is pre like Oliver Stone, where he was huge. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about a little bit about like how it even got to the point where it was a movie? Because Conan was kind of a rediscovered character. He wasn't. Yeah. He was big in the 30s, but not as big as he is now.
Absolutely.
And then of course Robert E. Howard. Oh, no, yeah, no, and then Robert E.
Well,
Howard.
wasn't there a
course,
resurgence at that point of 30s and 40s characters? Razor?
Well, I know that he got big in the
yeah.
70s. That's when I started reading.
But there was a long story before then, and I do believe RazorFist. You probably have a very good handle on it.
I have kind of a rough knowledge of it, but yeah, Robert E. Howard, of course, commits suicide in the mid-30s, and it was kind of after his death that his stuff is sort of rediscovered. I want to say it was in the late 50s into the 60s, and then of course with the yellow paperback craze of the 70s with the sword and sorcery stuff that really put it back on the map. I assume those would be the ones with the Frank Frazetta covers and such too, and that was a huge eye-grabbing thing. And I think that's probably why we even wound up with a movie at all. Conan, by the way, Conan wasn't even necessarily Robert E. Howard's most popular character in his lifetime, right? So he's sort of, our current understanding of Conan is sort of really from the rediscovery period in the 70s. He had lots of great characters. I'm a big fan of Solomon Kane, but he had boxing stories and Western stories and all kinds of crazy, sword woman and such.
Yeah, he wrote a ton of stories, and he wrote them under a pseudonym. So it was like only later, during like the Howard Golden Age in like the 70s, that people started like discovering for real, like, holy shit, those stories, they were Robert E. Howard the whole time. Because that's when they were printed in various fanzines and stuff. The person perhaps most responsible for the rediscovery, because yeah, you're right, this is something that actually goes back to because Howard's literary agent, they were able to print a few books and stuff like that, just so that Howard wouldn't go out of public consciousness completely. Like, he was known in pulp circles because he was one of the foremost authors of the pulp era. Like, he was up there. He was up there with Lovecraft, who, by the way, was as close as you could get to a front for someone who didn't meet the two of them. They corresponded extensively alongside with many other prominent figures of the pulp era. So he had a fan base from that. And those fans, they remembered him. And they were also instrumental in like buying the books that were published posthumously. Now, the first proper Conan book to be published was Conan the Conqueror, which was the retitled version of the full-length Conan story, Hour of the Dragon. And the person who was most responsible for this was L. Sprague de Camp. And after the success of the reprint of Hour of the Dragon in the guise of Conan the Conqueror, then he decided to reprint Howard's other stories. So he was able to get the rights and also secure some level of ownership in them. And first there was like a limited run of other books. And then he started extensively rewrite them. And this was in the 60s with the Lancer editions. And these are the ones that had the Frank Frazetta covers.
Right.
This is where it really, really took off. Now, this did not lead to the movie because there were many other knockoffs of Robert E. Howard and of Conan. Like, this was the one that sold the absolute most, but there were tons and tons and tons of knockoffs at the time. The really big thing that happened, though, was that all of these books right here, when Marvel Comics were looking to expand beyond their regular characters, then Roy Thomas had the idea to, well, let's go and see if we can get Conan. He wasn't really authorized to do that, but he was able to convince the literary agent of Conan and Robert E. Howard at the time that this might be a good idea to expand the audience, so the deal happened. And then the comics were really hot sellers at the time when they came from 1970 onwards, especially when the Savage Sword of Conan came in 1974. Like, these things right now, they sold in the millions. I mean, there ain't a single comic today that sells in the numbers that Conan did in those days. Of course, everything sold much more then because it was a different era. But still, Conan sold more then than Batman does today. Just think about that.
Yeah,
And
insanity.
again, it was these comics they were the ones that were the most direct responsible for the movie happening, not the books. This is a common misconception. But when this producer was introduced to Conan, he was already aware of the books. He had seen the covers. This did not convince him. It was flicking through a few select issues of the Savage Sword of Conan. That is what sealed the deal for him. That is when he decided, oh, dude, we are totally doing this. Because the comics, they were basically storyboards come to life. I mean, a book that's hard to open, you have to read, there's no pictures. I mean, for producers, that's sometimes like difficult. And this particular producer, he was Kevin Feige before there was a Kevin Feige, and before Kevin Feige sold out and became completely nuts. But at this time, this producer, he was really, really good and ahead of his time. He was someone that believed in cult productions and comic book adaptations and everything of the sort. And I'm blanking on his name right now in the second, even if that is tremendously embarrassing. He passed away a short time ago. Help me out here. He also produced Masters of the Universe. He produced the Judge Dredd movie and a bunch of other things.
Pressman?
Edward Pressman? Oh, I thought you said his name at the start. I'm sorry.
Pressman.
Yeah, no, Edward Pressman. Yeah,
Edward Pressman. So
you'll see his name all over a lot of stuff, guys.
Yeah,
like
it was the comics that sealed the deal for him. And shortly, and this was kind of like magic happening, because inside of a week of having been introduced to Conan by way of the comics, then he started reading some of the books after he had read the comics. And then by happenstance, he saw a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I don't recall which one it was. I think it may have been that Mr. Universe documentary.
Possibly, it was very big. So. Pumping Iron.
Yeah,
I'm coming day and night.
Yeah,
I love sex.
Yeah, I think he saw.
I love to have an orgasm. It's amazing.
And then he realized right away, this dude right there. Look at that guy's charisma. Like, he can barely speak. He has this barbarous accent, and Conan is supposed to have a barbarous accent. This is something that is right there in the stories. Wherever Conan comes, he speaks the local language, but he speaks it with an accent. Everyone in the stories are instantly able to tell, not just by looking at him, but just talking with him, because he's described as having a barbarous accent, and that's what he heard at Schwarzenegger. This guy is perfect. He has the body, he has the charm, and he even has a barbarous accent. Problem what to do with that solved.
Yeah.
And so they reached out to Arnold, and they were basically able to secure an agreement of intention. So they didn't have funding or anything of the sort. All they had was an idea to do a Conan movie. They had reached out to Roy Thomas, who was writing the comics for Marvel. He was connecting them with all of the rights holders. But still, you had the pitch. You had the producer, Edward R. Pressman, and Pressman, he had his star in Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that was the beginning.
Yeah, and I mean, you also had a bit of a sword and sorcery thing going on in Hollywood just prior to and big time after Conan. And I mean, of course, those novel covers that you were discussing, Andre, clearly inspired a lot of these film posters, as you can tell here by Deathstalker.
Absolutely.
Vallejo.
Yeah, just as one example, and you also had the one that came out the same year, Sword and the Sorcerer.
We were just talking about that one last night.
That's a great film too.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was an interesting time
and then the story that went through several different iterations, because then it was a matter of getting funding and actually selling the movie to a studio, because again, there was no studio behind this. This was just Edward R. Pressman, independent producer, setting a movie up on his own and then hoping to be able to sell it. So part of his pitch was to have a star, but he needed a script. The first one he commissioned to write the script was Roy Thomas himself. And I've asked Roy Thomas about this. He did not have a copy of the script for me. He didn't remember it in detail, but it had something to do with Conan battling a sorcerer. to me, it sounded like it was loosely based on Rogues in the House, Roy Thomas' original draft. But when Pressman tried to pitch this to the studios, then he was told right away that no, this ain't gonna fly. We don't want anything from that comic book dude. You want to pitch to us, you better get a proper screenwriter. And Oliver Stone, at this time, he was not yet director Oliver Stone, but he was writer Oliver Stone.
Right.
He had a few Hollywood credits behind him, so with someone like him attached, they could get the movie made. Or at least they could pitch it to a studio.
He was basically where Milius was a decade before that.
Exactly.
Which is kind of ironic. Like, it's weird, but like, yeah. And again, I don't think enough credit goes to Milius for what we got here at the end of the day either.
Yeah. No. We'll get to John Milius.
But yeah, we'll get to him.
Before then, it's Oliver Stone. And Oliver Stone's draft of the movie, well, basically everything
you got the import here
that is in the Milius movie was also in Oliver Stone's draft, plus many, many more things that were cut out. But the story is fundamentally by Oliver Stone. But of course, then Milius came in much later, because when they were able to sell the movie to Universal and everything, they were able to get John Milius attached to it. He looked at the script, he decided, yeah, okay, this works, I just have to trash it, rewrite it, and start completely over from scratch. And that's basically what he did. He took the script and he used bits and pieces of it. But in doing that, he did two things. One was that he was able to really bring the themes and the philosophy that he wanted up to the forefront. Gerry, can you rewind a little bit to that quote at the very beginning there? I want to talk about that.
The Nietzsche quote.
The Nietzsche quote, yes.
From the dawn of time.
Yeah. Because it begins with this Nietzsche quote, and that is very important. I mean, sometimes you can just kind of, there we go. I mean, whenever you see quotes like this in movies, oftentimes, more often than not, you can just kind of like skip above them. But this quote right here, this is John Milius' mission statement for the entire movie. The entire movie, in a sense, is the extended film version of this quote. Everything in it comes back to this, which is why it was important to have that here. Because the whole thing here is that young Conan, he goes through all of this hardship, but he perseveres through it and he rises stronger. That was the message and the philosophy that John Milius wanted to infuse into the movie. And that is then emphasized here, and it's emphasized many, many more times. So this is kind of like what John Milius did in his rewrite. It was two things. One is that he brought this quote to the forefront. Actually, it was three things. One, he brought this quote to the forefront. He thematically built the whole movie around it. Secondarily, was that he removed all of the zombie fights. He did Thulsa Doom a lot less expensive to make, because Thulsa Doom in the original source material is actually not from the Conan stories at all. He's from the Cull stories, which they also had the rights to, which is why they could use him. And if you've seen Skeletor, you've seen Thulsa Doom. That is what Thulsa Doom looks like the perfect movie representation of Thulsa Doom. That's Frank Langella's Skeletor in the Masters of the Universe movie. That's what Thulsa Doom looks like. He changed that, and he removed like hordes and hordes of zombie armies and stuff like that. So he basically made the whole thing filmable. Plus, and this is the secret to the movie, is that what John Milius did, he recognized, I have to deal with Schwarzenegger. He maybe would have wanted someone who's a stronger thespian, but he knew, okay, I just need to let him sail through on his charms. So the whole story has to be told by the other actors and a narrator, which is why he cast all these other fantastic actors to basically carry the movie so that Arnold could sail through it on charisma alone. And that is what Milius brought to it. RazorFist, anything you want to add to what I said so far?
No, I think that's absolutely true. And that's one of the interesting things about Robert E. Howard is whatever John Milius's intent was, that is a wonderful ratification of what Robert E. Howard would do when he created a character. Because I'm sure you're aware of this. All of his characters have like a theme. All of them. He attaches some kind of theme to them. With Solomon Kane, it's vengeance and justice. He's like a vigilante. With Conan, it's freedom and perseverance. Every single story is about freedom and perseverance, right? Living unencumbered, the consequences of that, somehow managing to rise above that. From the get-go, whether Milius even intended to be that close to the source material or not, he is remarkably thematically close to the source material, which is probably why this movie winds up being so damn good.
And that's also one of the reasons why Pressman hired him, because of course Pressman, he not only read the comics, he read the books, he also had extensive conversations with Roy Thomas. And Roy Thomas could tell him that the really important thing here is the theme of civilization versus barbarism. That is the really recurring thing in the Howard stories. Of course, what you said as well, with freedom and perseverance. But this comes through with the struggle between freedom, with civilization versus barbarism, and then that's when Pressman thought, I know just the guy for that, because he knew that this is something that would appeal to John Milius. Now, is Milius the perfect guy? Like, is it the perfect adaptations of Howard and his team? No, but they are compatible. That's the beauty here. This is a story. This is not the story that John Milius told here. Is not like anything that Robert Howard ever wrote.
And if I may,
consistent with him. Carry on, Tom.
I was just say, if I may, Andre. See, there's the thing: is a lot of people forget how an adaptation works, right? Like people are so used to getting things that are pretty much exactly what the book was for the longest time with like Harry Potter movies and such like that. That at this time you couldn't just adapt something directly. Milius was one of those guys who was one of the best adapters in the world. Like, I mean, he helped basically break the backbone of Jaws. He helped with Apocalypse Now as far as that goes. And he even argued that his version is so different from the book that they shouldn't even be in the same.
Well, exactly, because, Apocalypse Now, you bring that up. And the fact is, Francis Ford Coppola has said in many interviews that they want to know how much of it was Milius. And he says, all your favorite parts and all your favorite lines from Apocalypse Now, that was written by Milius. That's how good a writer he is. Even Coppola admits it.
And if you want to know the kind of guy Milius is, you only have to see The Big Lebowski, because basically John Goodman's character in The Big Lebowski is based on John Milius.
Exactly. By the way, can I put something in here too? Because I don't want to. We just saw we're seeing young Conan here, and this young actor
just a
right
baby.
here.
Yeah,
he has Arnold's eyes. He actually looks like he could grow into Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that's
casting.
It's Jorge Sanz, a Spanish actor, as a boy.
We should probably also mention that the origin is a little closer to Kull.
Yes,
than it is
yes,
to Conan,
it is.
Which is cool because you can't make it exactly the same as the Conan books. Fair enough. Draw inspiration from some other Robert E. Howard property, and so they do. They mix and match, and it works here, especially because Kull, a lot of the Kull stories later became Conan stories and stuff like vice versa, right? So there was an interrelationship there a little bit between the two characters, so it wasn't that far of a deviation.
Kull, in many ways, is the proto-Conan. Literally and figuratively. Like the very first Conan story ever to be written was a rewrite of the last Kull story ever to be written. So, like the linking between Conan and Kull goes way, way back. And again, this was a choice actually made by Oliver Stone, because he had the right. They had the rights to Kull, they had the rights to Conan, and he must have seen a lot in Kull that he liked, because he took the origin. And again, this wasn't a Milius choice. This was Oliver Stone choice. He took the villain and the origin from Kull, and the rest from Conan.
By the way, and it's kind of a fun fact with it, the sword, from what I understand, the inscription on it reads, "Suffer no guilt, he who wields this in the name of Crom," which is a variant on what would be on actual executioner's swords in medieval days, from what I remember. It was basically, in the name of God, ye not guilty, because an executioner was not guilty of murder for doing it. So if you're following through in the name of their God, you are not guilty of any sin.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's Milius being a stickler for history and for proper medieval tales right now. And also, we saw like some images here, and I want to highlight. Look at these designs. Look at this cinematography. Look how authentic it is.
Right.
The set design and the costume design was by Jeff Cobb. John Cobb.
The redheaded kid. The redheaded kid's important here because that's the guy that frees him and turns him into a warrior. When he grows up, they grew up knowing each other.
Yep.
And
where did they film this, by the way?
Spain.
Filmed in Spain.
Makes sense.
Second one was filmed in Romania, right?
It's actually a fun story about that. Because they filmed in Spain, and they had something of a problem with some of the extras, the Spanish extras, because at the time it wasn't that many Hollywood productions that came there. You had, of course, the European productions, the European spaghetti and westerns. I mean, they were filmed in this area. This was filmed like within a stone's throw distance away from where you filmed The Good, Bad, and Ugly and stuff like that, right? You can totally tell from the look of it. But like a big Hollywood production, that was comparatively rare. So all of the local extras, they wanted their moment to shine. So every time they were killed off, they had like these huge, elaborate death scenes. It was like a joke, like the way they were screaming and moaning and struggling to go down, trying to get up again. They all wanted their moment in the sun, and they had to be paid extra to just lie down and die.
Well, we kind of jumped over Dino De Laurentiis getting involved in this too.
Yes. Oh man, yeah. Nobody's even brought that up. Good. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm here for.
That's what you're here for.
Again, Tom, he got the best crash course imaginable by editing that video.
Well, and Dino De Laurentiis is a force of nature all on his own, right? So you've got basically 3.5 force of natures now that have met in this, like,
met and clashed because they didn't all get along.
And by the half, I meant Oliver Stone or Pressman, whichever one you want to put in the scenario at that time.
Yeah. Especially because Dino De Laurentiis, he eventually bought Edward R. Pressman out of the movie because it was a long process to get the movie sold, and the one that eventually took it on was Dino De Laurentiis. He was the one that could offer the best deal, but that deal meant that Pressman basically had to let go and give it to Dino De Laurentiis. The good news of that was that the first movie got made. The bad news we will get back to when we get to part 2, because that's on Dino De Laurentiis. And
I guess we could do a Conan the Destroyer episode.
Dino De Laurentiis for any Rageaholic cinema fans who may be watching. Dino De Laurentiis would be known to you from Death Wish.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Dune. David Lynch's Dune.
Oh gosh, Dino is well known. King Kong, Dune.
Oh yeah.
And he was well known for trying to milk every bit he can out of everything.
Proper Italian filmmaker.
Yes.
And he also tried to turn the Carolinas into the new Hollywood. Unsuccessful. Because he built a big studio in South Carolina.
Points for trying.
Yep.
Fun fact about Dino, and this is like one of the things when you pitched stuff, you had to pitch to Dino directly.
Yep.
And he would decide if he liked it or not. You didn't have
the more animated you were, the better off you were.
Now, is this the one, Andre, or am I mixing it up with another movie where the translation for Dino was messed up?
What
or is that Dune?
I thought that was Lost Highway. Like the whole Dick Laurent is dead came from a mishearing of Dino.
Oh, that is something else. But like there was one of the scripts that he was reading and he didn't understand. I can't remember if it was Conan or Dune now.
That was Conan the Destroyer.
Okay, yeah, because you didn't understand something, and something got missed. Yeah, because this is a common thing with him anyway. But go ahead. I didn't know. Okay, I thought it was this one. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, with this one, things were mostly okay. Like everything kind of worked out. Of course, there was like a big personality clash between Arnold, the force of nature, and Dino De Laurentiis, the force of nature, the first time they met. Like it didn't prevent the movie in any way, shape, or form, but it made things uneasy because they did not get along first time they met. Because Arnold made a joke at Dino De Laurentiis' expense, basically. Because what he did, because Dino De Laurentiis, like he's a big man, but in terms of personality and everything like that, but he's a very short man. And the first time they met, and Dino De Laurentiis, he was like sitting there puffing his cigar on this huge, massive desk. And then Arnold, he went to him and he said, "Ha ha ha ha! What does such a small man need with such a big desk?"
Oh God!
Dino De Laurentiis, he did not take kindly to that. So then he said, "This Italian." He puffed his smoke and he said, "You have the accent." And then Arnold got pissed off and said, "I have an accent. You have accent." And the meeting
I will crush you, little man.
But it was all sorted out when De Laurentiis came to visit him on set one day, and he saw Arnold in costume, and then he said, "You are the Conan," and then it was all good and well. And just to comment on what we are seeing right here, because what we're seeing right here, and especially hold it right there, this frame with Arnold being trained. This is the thing that many have issues with the movie. Most who are fans of Conan and of Robert E. Howard, they have issues with this particular aspect of the movie. Just to talk briefly of the screen story, what happens here in the movie is that young Conan's entire family, entire clan, in fact, his whole people are killed off. This is something that is confirmed in the sequel script that was never filmed and never will be, The Legend of Conan. But Conan is actually the final Cimmerian. He is the final worshipper of Crom. There are no others. And he was raised in slavery, and he had to learn to fight the civilized way. Look here, he was sent to the Far East, where he learned sword fighting from the best of the masters. Basically, he got the equivalent of Navy SEAL training of the day. And he's learned philosophy, he's taught stuff from books, and he even has to parrot lines like, "Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women," which is a great line, but you'll note he's actually never done any of those things. He always correct downtrodden slaves like himself. He heard the whimper of the women brought to him, and no enemies fled before him lest they were.
Yeah, it's a different. It's definitely different from the literary Conan, because one of the things, I mean, I write pulp stories about a thief character, and one of the biggest inspirations is Conan, because Conan is a roguey, thiefy, sneaky character a lot of times, and there's different eras of Conan stories, obviously. So this idea of like, he certainly cracks some skulls in the stories, but this idea of him being like the juggernaut and whatever, this is kind of more film Conan in a lot of ways.
Oh, without a doubt. I agree with you on that. But I did want to point out again, this is the redheaded kid, now an adult, that brought him out of slavery to be a warrior in the pits, and now he's looking at him differently. And I've always wanted to hear your response to this, Andre, of what you interpret what he's thinking here.
I'm very glad that you brought this up, because this is something that many miss, and this is like one of the small things, which is why movies are art, and this movie is art. The more things you're able to put there in the subtext, which are there visually for the audience to discover, dissect, pick up on, so you see some new detail every time you watch the movie. This is something that John Milius did. That's why he's a great filmmaker. Very few filmmakers are like that. I'm glad you picked up on this, because yes, this red-headed kid who's been there his entire Conan's entire life. I'm not going to say that they're friends, because they've never had any kind of like a social relationship. They probably never had any kind of real conversation. What has happened is that This little young redhead kid, he's redhead because he's a Vanir, that's his tribe. And he's basically grown up alongside Conan. He had freedom, as much freedom you can have in those days. He's been there doing other stuff while Conan was walking around looking in circles. He's been doing other stuff while Conan became this feared pit fighter and everything. Conan is basically just a complete slave. And you see that. Again, this is something that readers of the Conan books and comics have issues with, because the real Conan, the literary Conan, isn't like that. He's a barbarian, as in he has always grown up fearless and untamed. He's never been captured, at least not for long. He's never been enslaved. And if he is captured or enslaved, he's not going to stay that way for long. Whereas this Conan, he is so beaten down and broken that, as the narrator says, he has forgotten what it's like to be free. He has to be literally chased away because he's perfectly content being where he is. So I guess that.
But what do you think his driving force was? The red-headed barbarian.
Sympathy, and empathy.
I think it's kind of like like you just said,
that he actually saw him with his own eyes.
It's Hollywood, right? They did this with Solomon Kane too when they made that movie. We have to deliver the pathos. So instead of Solomon Kane being a Puritan heathen slayer from the very beginning, he's got to have a dark past where he's a pirate and evil and blah blah blah. They do the same thing with Conan.
Yeah, it's the pre-story character arc. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Well, and I just want to jump back just a little bit here because Andre said it at the top of the program, and I don't know if we've been paying enough attention, but Milius has sprinkled the theme, and I love how Andre put it, because this is the first time I heard him put it this way, and it is. This movie is basically that quote as a movie. Each and everything we've seen so far has been set up. Conan is put up against something. It doesn't kill him. And then he's sent off to some other situation that just keeps making him stronger. And the same thing happens again in a cycle. We're seeing the beginning again.
That which doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah. Exactly. So he went from being, he went from being a slave to being a pit fighter where he became stronger. And then again, he's taking the next level now. He's been free, but now he's being chased by these dogs. And now this is not going to kill him. It's going to make him stronger when he falls into the pit here and finds Crom.
He finds what he believes is Crom. But I do want to point out this great trivia here, that he got nailed by it was actually a wolf.
Yeah.
They were a mixture of dogs and wolves, and there was a wolf in the group, and it nailed him in the calf as he's going up these rocks. And Arnold was like, it hurts. And he's going at Milius and like, I'm really hurt. And Milius says this great line. He says, your pain is temporary. This movie is forever. Get back up there. And they shot the scene, and he shut Arnold down. And I just love that moment, because that's a typical Milius story. And I find he's really is one of my heroes, by the way, guys.
I'm surprised you just didn't pull a gun on him and tell him get up there and fucking do
it. Because he's always packing. He is. Yeah. He is. They got that right with Goodman. He's always
Milius,
packing.
like if Milius is basically like if he is.
Wasn't that Hardsog you're thinking of?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's just a force of nature. I was going to make a really bad comparison, but no, he's just a force of nature. And I think that you had to have somebody like Milius to rein Arnold in, because he was the barbarian, not the character so much, but Arnold was probably the barbarian more than anything at that point, just coming into his career, because he's a 35-year-old kid who's Mr. Universe and all this other stuff. And this is the beginning of his career. Like, this is the movie that put him on the map.
Yep.
And, it was Milius who kind of cracked that egg.
I got to ask you guys, what were your thoughts on Milius? Because Milius came up with Spielberg, Lucas, Coppola, Brian
Well, he was part of the USC Mafia.
Brian De Palma. I mean, he's part of that group, but he is nothing like those guys. He's completely politically opposed to them. And yet they're close friends. And I always love that. What do you guys think of that?
I think it's his mad genius, to be honest with you, Razor. Anybody else?
Yeah.
He's a visionary, and that makes him unique.
I think that he is his own man, literally and figuratively. I can't think of anyone else I know who is like John Milius. John Milius is just his own John Milius.
I guess if I would say anything, he's like the Andre, help me out here. I mean, he's very
give me something to go on.
Because, like, well, I mean, like I said, he's basically John Goodman in The Big Lebowski. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, great.
You know, he kind of reminds me of. You ever hear any stories of Michael Winner?
No.
Michael Winner was hated by a lot of people. Cigar chomping British guy, but super politically conservative, not really accepted by the Hollywood establishment. He was a guy who very much believed in, I'm going to make a movie that's more, my movies are made to be entertaining. They're made to be, there's a brilliant debate between Michael Winner and this angry feminist when Death Wish 2 came out, right? Where he's blowing cigar smoke in her face while he's debating with her. It's absolutely brilliant. He comes from that school, it seems like, John Milius.
Well, he did, because those who don't know, he signed up in the military, but he's 4F. He volunteered for Vietnam and got rejected. Yeah, when they were taking in, like people with low IQs, he wasn't taking because of medical problems. And it really broke his heart because he always felt that he should die on the battlefield. He said that.
I was going to compare him. I was going to say he's basically the right-wing Hunter S. Thompson, but I didn't know if anybody would agree or disagree with me.
No, I would say you're right in the same
weird way.
He is
a bit gonzo, but he's of the right-wing side of it, to where Hunter was always the lefty side of that. But
right,
a lot less drugs,
something to that. Yeah.
Sorry, what was
Gerry, can you rewind a little bit? I want to comment on the scene here. Go back to the dogs and him there, perfect with him finding.
I'm at the. Is this okay?
Yeah, just about. Yeah, go from there.
There we go.
Because here he has just been given his freedom, and he runs. This right here is a scene that is straight from. I believe that this scene is something that was written not by Robert E. Howard, because this is from one of the stories that was rewritten and re-edited by L. Sprague de Camp. And then it was made famous
in the comics. Because they made some changes in the comics. Because Red Sonja actually was from a different period, but in the comic books, she was his love interest, and in the comic books.
Well, same thing with Tulsa Doom. He wasn't a Conan villain.
Yeah, that's right. He was from.
But this scene right here, the core of this scene is straight then from the comics. Notice like a detail when he goes in here, he's being chased by wolves. And then he finds this sword, and when he comes out again, then he's actually wearing the wolf skin afterwards. Again, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The wolves tried to kill him; they couldn't. And now he's stronger because.
There's a symbolism of this scene too, Andre. This is his rebirth.
Yes,
the hole is like the vagina giving birth to him. This is new Conan.
Yeah,
I totally get that.
Like the Falcons, but his sword. This is like the epic sword that Conan still has. So there's like two epic swords in here. One is his father's sword, and then it's the Atlantean sword.
Yep.
And the reason that this is the Atlantean sword is that this is never stated, but by implication, the person he got this from is a king of Atlantis. That was by implication Kull.
There.
Yeah.
He took the skull.
Kull the Conqueror. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do like it that he identifies him as Crom. And and that look when he looks into the camera.
I think that's more of him making an expression. I don't think it's like
he's like saying, "Oh my God."
Right. Yeah, I don't think he's like saying, "Crom, there you are."
But isn't that what is it?
Wow, I never
referred to as the sword of Crom.
Like he says Crom after this thing with the witch and the demon and stuff too.
You're right. I don't know why I've always thought he just thought that was Crom, but no, that makes sense.
Yeah. That's him. That's him saying Jesus.
Yeah. Being slightly sacrilegious. By the way, I've not said hello to our audience.
Copa Catania said like that there's an unproduced script by John Milius floating around there somewhere. Yeah, I know.
They need to. We deserve to get the sequel of this King Conan.
Well, and some of the confusion. might come from what I believe Shanatsky was saying earlier about the inscription that is translated on Conan's sword, which says, "Suffer no guilt, ye who wield this in the name of Crom." That's probably why. So it's
Soul
like supposed to be
Assassin,
Crom's sword.
as I recall, Milius's version of Conan is supposed to be a descendant of Cole, right?
There, no such link is ever said in the movie, but he is implied to be in the let's say in the extended fan version of the original stories.
It seems like I remember somebody in the production saying that, and
yeah,
it's like
again, that is something that they would have from the original stories, because Conan's people, the Cimmerians or the Cimmerians, as it should be pronounced. I always hate the Cimmerians with a passion, but anyway, it's Robert E. Howard canon that the Cimmerians are descended from the Atlanteans. Now, does that mean that there's a direct link between Conan in particular and Kull in particular, other than them coming from the same group of people? That you can say by implication there is, but it's never stated explicitly that Kull is the forefather of Conan. This is kind of more like they're the same people. Direct link. I mean, they're 100,000 years apart, depending on which chronology you want to follow. They are from 1,000 to 100,000 years apart, depending on exactly which chronology you follow. Now, RazorFist, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not think that Robert E. Howard ever specifically stated how long a gap there was between the age of Kull and the age of Conan. If he did in some letter or something, I don't have it at the top of my head. I mean, these are dates which later have been filled in by other scholars. I know that right now there is an official timeline and continuity, but how much of that is...
Yeah, where did the Hyborian Age exist, according to all of his literature? Do we know?
Approximately 12,000 years ago. So it would be right around the time when that Graham Hancock identifies as like the scientist and stuff like that. But right around there is the end of the Age of Conan.
That's interesting, and you connected it with Hancock. That's really good. I like that. I want to say, by the way, we got to get ready to go to commercial break in a couple of minutes, and I haven't said hello to our audience. We got some good people here: D. Bud Martin, Penny, Scriblight, Slasher Fred, Hex Allen Comics, Lady V Elements, War Monkey, the Peter Vinkman fan site, also Vinkman's Girl, Farnsworth, Read by Nation, E. Clay Thomason, Soul Assassin, D. Panzak, Everest Productions, the Padawannabe. Let's see. We got some notes here. I got to get past these. What's Gorilla's Random Thoughts? Who wrote that, Martin? What is that about? Is that a name?
Yeah, that's the name.
Oh, so we've got a gorilla and good. We've got monkeys in the audience. It's a monkey audience today. All hail Lord Thoth, Darth Plato, Bush McFadden.
Gorillas are apes.
Yeah, gorillas are apes. Bush McFadden, Andy Morrow from the UK, Rob Biller, Mecha J, Mecha Heiny Ho, the Basco Scenario, Jim Watari, the Common Nerd, Cavatino Cavalryman Che, let's see, Kappa Catania? Copa Catania. Vimmer. Okay, you guys are just making your names weird and hard to pronounce. Vimorane. And of course, Monkey Jeeps. Yes, it is official. We have a House of Monkeys. And of course, Fletcher Williams is here, guys. Thanks for being here, guys, and thanks for watching. We got 253 watching right now and over 4,000 listening to us on KGRA. Everybody's enjoying the show so far. And I got to tell you, Andre, Razor, Tom, you guys are raising the house up here, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Happy to. You lured us in with talk of Conan.
I know. I have a rapey van with a promise of candy, and they're in here now.
I was told there were popsicles in the basement.
Gary's like the witch, only wearing more clothes.
The wolf witch.
Slightly.
And a
more
lot
flow.
of people didn't catch that she's a wolf witch and she despised him because he had killed wolves. And that was part of her hatred of him. And I think why she wanted to kill him, right?
She saw right away. This guy, he's wearing...
Anima Confuser is on the chat.
Of my kin.
Hey, your name's not mentioned in there. I only said the names that Martin wrote down, so blame him.
I know it's my fault because she wasn't with us, and it stuck in my mind that she's still with us.
How does the shit list feel?
How does the shit list feel? I love it. Hey, Don Ecker is in the house. He's my partner on Wednesdays. We do 2 shows together, Dangerous Military Nerds and UFO Wednesday.
We have 1 minute to break.
1 minute? All right. Let's go ahead and pause the film here. Yeah, we're going to have to speed up a little bit. Geez, we're not even halfway through the film yet. But we do need to do a commercial break because of our sponsor. Our sponsor, of course, is Fuel Up Hydration. 70% of Americans have no idea. They think they're hungry. They're actually thirsty. This is one of the problems with obesity in America is people eat when they're thirsty when they should be just drinking water. And one of the things that Fuel Up Hydration does is it increases your ability to healthily retain water in the body, not in a bad way to where you get swelling and cellulitis and all that shit. I've tried it. I was on it for quite a while, and I got to tell you, I want more of it because I always feel better when I'm on that system. It absolutely got rid of my old man naps in the afternoon. I don't need them anymore. All thanks to Fuel Up. And with that, let's get a commercial break. We'll be right back. Hi guys, this is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh wow, we survived! Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA.
Pop Culture Minefield. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. And of course, that is Bill that does the statement about KGRA. He's our producer, but he's not here today, and we miss him. Back into Conan. That is
John
Gerry
Milius.
Lopez, by the way. What?
And John Milius is on the screen.
That is no, that's not Milius.
Yeah,
No.
that's Milius.
That is
yes.
All right, stop. That is not
John
Milius.
Milius.
That is Ron Cobb, for Christ's sake.
Oh yeah.
That's Ron Cobb.
Yeah, it's
artist.
true. Yeah, of course it is.
And then Gerry Lopez is John Milius' best friend. He plays Subutai. He's his surfing buddy, and he still owns a surf shop in Hawaii.
Nice. By the way, Script Doctor actually did a review on his Patron of the Legend of Conan script. I could give some summaries if you guys want.
Yeah, that is not the one by John Milius, though.
Who wrote that one?
The Legend of Conan script.
Yeah,
that was written by. Give me 1 second.
Will Bell, 122
I'll find it
pages.
here. Just give me 1 second, and I'll find the script. I have it here, so I just have to go and check exactly.
The one Script Doctor did was the one for Legend of Conan. Or
yeah,
whatever,
that was the one for Legend of Conan. I just have to give me 1 second, and I will find exactly who it was that wrote it. I just have to.
Will Bell.
And by the way, I
correct.
love the use of the word Stygian in this scene with Ron Cobb as the food merchant.
Will B. Lindeal is the one that wrote the Legend of Conan, whereas the one that Milius wrote was King Conan, Crown of Iron from 2002, I believe it was. That script is from.
I'd like to read that one. Do you have a copy of it?
Yeah, sure. I'll look you up with it.
Maybe. Oh, please do. I would love to read that.
You gave in too easy. I could have got sexual favors, Andre.
Okay. God damn it! I could have given him sexual favors, Andre.
Exactly. See, and he's a willing participant.
I'm totally a backdoor Gary.
But anyway, back to the movie. Yeah.
Sandal Bergman. Oh my god!
So just to make sure that Conan doesn't have a case of the gays, to make sure you got a woman here. He's been hanging around a guy too much.
Dancer, by the way. She got this part because she's a hell of a dancer, and she could learn sword techniques so easily.
Yeah, and Milius first saw her in the movie All That Jazz.
All That Jazz, that's right.
Amazing. Yeah.
No, she's great in this.
For Roy Scheider as playing the part of what's his name, the jazz dancer guy. Oh, I forget his name.
And the scene we are watching right now, by the way, this is one of the things that that Oliver Stone actually lifted from the original stories: the climbing of the Tower of the Snake, or the Snake Tower.
It feels like something right out of a Conan book. Yeah,
that is from the Conan book. In the original
and the snake, by the way,
stories-
is from the usurper.
Yeah. In the original story, this scaling of the tower is actually the Tower of Yara from the story, The Heart of the Elephant. So it would be the Elephant Tower that they are scaling here in the book.
My favorite Conan story.
One of the best ones. One of the that was the third Conan story written, actually.
The beginning of my last book, Death Mask. The opening chapter was patterned after the very first paragraphs of the Tower of the Elephant. The idea, like I was trying to take that scene and rewrite it in my style, basically.
I have to check that out.
I absolutely love that book.
Yeah.
I want to point out this is my first Conan book right here. The Usurper. It was the what is it? The volume 4.
Yeah,
of the
and you
series.
see, this is one of those that have been
right there, the snake,
and re-edited by L. Sprague de Camp.
Yep, because his name's right up there. You show you again.
Yeah,
and L. Sprague de Camp, right next to his name. But that was the book that introduced me to Conan, right there.
Yeah, and that image that tells me I have never actually read Conan the Usurper. This was never a title that was used by Robert E. Howard. That was a title that was basically used by L. Sprague de Camp for the compilation of stories.
Compilation of short stories.
Found in it. And one of them, based on the looks there, would have been the Scarlet Citadel, because that is the one where King Conan is trapped and he has to escape from this giant, freaking massive snake. So yeah, and of course that again is another scene that made it in here. But still, all of this focus on, for instance, Snake Men, or not all this focus, but like one of the Snake Men, of which Tulsa Doom we later find out is one. That again is from the cult stories.
And you know what I got to tell you, even with the mechanical aspect of this being jerky, I think this scene stands up to today. I would rather see this than CG.
No, I just watched it last night. I thought it looked really good.
Yeah.
Subutai is just nailing it with those arrows. I love that shot.
Perfect casting, which only goes to show that more important than being a great actor for everything is having the right fit for the right part. Yep. And Gerry Lopez is perfect for this part because Milius wrote it for him, and he wrote it with him in mind. But it's because he knew that that I need a guy like this, and Jerry Lopez can do it. Also notice Thulsa Doom's henchmen. These were friends of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was the one who recruited them, Sven Ole Thorsen, and I forget the name of the other one here. He was like an American football player or something. This guy right here, I forgot his name.
Oh, Ben Davidson.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was an American pro football player.
Yeah, but
don't forget too, his best friend was in this too. Franco Colombo is at the beginning.
Yes, he's one of the tribes people in the beginning.
Yeah, the painted people. Yeah.
And yeah, but basically they had to find some henchmen that were as big as Arnold
or bigger, yeah,
or bigger, and could then be looked like plausible threats to him. And then they went with Arnold's bodybuilder and football buddies.
I love this escape scene.
Yeah, it's great.
You want to live
Oh,
forever?
we have a super chat from Brandon, the anime guy.
The anime guy. Good to see you, Brandon. Holy cow! All of my favorite people in one place. Isekai is life. Isekai. Tom knows. Conan is easily top 5 80s movies. Also, Blackie Lawless is best frontman.
Yeah.
You know what that is? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, from the band Wasp. But, by the way, Blackie Lawless was in some sword and sorcery films. He was originally supposed to be the Terminator, I believe, actually. Yeah. Blackie Lawless had some very near misses with very popular 80s action films. But he wound up being in that movie. What's it called?
Cellar Dweller? Or not Cellar Dweller.
End War or Dungeon Keeper, whatever.
Arena or whatever it was. No. There was some
Dungeon Master.
Wrong answers.
Dungeon Master.
Dungeon Master. I was trying to remember what the hell it was. I was like, it was an Empire film, and I'm going through my list of Empire films in my head.
Yeah, he's a big guy, so you can see why they thought he would be.
And by the way, speaking of big guys, here you go. My favorite photo. There you go. Andre Wilt holding their son, Arnold.
God almighty.
Bring your kid to work day.
And there are people who say Andre the Giant was not as tall as people thought he was.
Bullshit.
Well,
look at that.
Look at this photo and tell me that Arnold doesn't look like a dwarf, an actual dwarf.
He does look like a dwarf compared to those two. Exactly.
And this is a picture from
Arnold's
Conan
over
the
6
Destroyer.
foot. What is he, like 6'4"?
Something like that, I think.
I just want to say I love this scene right here.
Yeah.
So I still love of Arnold being drunk in stupor.
Look who's here.
Hi.
Oh, it's wee Brian.
Just thought I'd pop in for a little while, and I didn't mean to interrupt Andre, so please continue, Andre.
Are you done fucking sheep, are you?
I'm done for just about everything, I'm afraid.
You didn't get much of a tan down in Mexico.
I can't.
Scottish don't tan. They go
Believe it or
straight
not,
from pale to burn.
Yeah, they just go from blue to red, then back to blue again. So.
Since we had an interruption here, and we're going to come back to the scene anyhow, I just want to point out that Milius's cameo is cut out of the version that we know.
Oh.
I don't know.
Did he make a cameo? I never.
He
heard
did.
About this.
He was the guy who sold Conan the little lizards that he ate. Well, you don't see him in the. I'm sure it's probably in like the TV version and I believe certain international versions. But
yeah, I believe it's in the extended version. I'm almost positive it's there. Yeah,
it's not in the one I watched last night anyway. I don't think so. I have to go back and watch. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite comical moments when he falls face first into the soup.
Yeah, that gets us back here because that's what Andre was discussing was this scene here. Yeah.
But yeah, because this is basically like where their romance is developed. The romance between Conan and Valeria. And you'll notice it's developed without him actually ever opening his mouth. It's just her talking about how much they love each other.
and he gives her a big jewel.
Yeah.
I mean,
and by the way, they do have it in the line here from the book, The Usurper, right there from the collection of stories. I like.
Okay, it is D1. Okay.
Yes.
King Osric.
Also, I like this scene because what it is them. Because I've seen this in some of the other stories where they went and they had themselves a little caper, right? They went and robbed all these jewels, and especially one of the crown jewels of the snake folk. I forget their name or whatever, but the.
The eye of the snake.
The eye of the snake. Yeah, they steal the eye of the snake, and that, of course, is what sends all these people after them. But I love that because, like, yeah, they're sitting up in this, I don't know what it would be at that time, like a hotel kind of situation with all these other people just partying for God knows how long, spending all their jewels on women and booze and shit. And yeah, and then you got this little budding romance between the two of them in the midst of it all.
All right.
Okay.
It's a very Conan scene, yeah.
Yeah, yes, we do. We have a super chat from Adam Woford for $5.
Oh my!
Hey, RazorFist, if Elric was made in the same year as Conan, who would you cast as Elric, and who would direct it? Also,
David Bowie. Actually, he would actually be really good.
He would.
His name, the Thin White Duke, actually is taken from the Elric books.
Wes Craven directs. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know who could direct it. I mean, there were
John Carpenter.
John Carpenter, maybe. Yeah,
maybe. Did he ever do
David
a
Bowie and Carpenter? He did Starman, which is kind of the closest. Yeah, and Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah,
I like Legend. I like Legend a lot. Ridley Scott would be a cool choice. But
yeah, because basically what you would want to direct Elric, because Elric was in every way the anti-Conan, right?
Yeah.
So you would.
That's why this is mentioned here. We should probably mention
the anti-Milius.
Yeah, you would need the anti-Milius.
He's the anti-Milius. Okay, I like that.
The anti-Milius.
Well, in that case, you want John Waters. John Waters
is the anti-Milius.
Yes, yeah, you're right. You're
John
absolutely
Waters.
correct. John Waters, yes.
Waters
but no, I love
would be a
this
good pick.
Max von Sydow. I mean, would you call it an extended cameo, basically?
He's in Solomon Kane as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Is he really?
Yeah,
I didn't know
Max
that.
von
I haven't
Sydow.
seen. I got to
Yes.
see that anyway. But yeah.
But I love I'm sad that we didn't get to see his death scene in the film because the blood packs wouldn't work. And finally, when they did work, they erupted in laughter. And so it was unusable. And all you get to see it is an outtake. But he is eventually murdered by his own guards who have become...
I've always wondered how Conan managed to get Derek Smalls from Spinal Tap as his sidekick there.
Right.
This one goes to 11.
This sword goes to 11.
Max von Sydow here, right before he delivers presents to children all over the world.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
another time where Max von Sydow's obviously playing somebody 10, 15, 20 years older than he actually is, again, as usual.
Yeah.
Like The Exorcist, yep.
Yep. But he's great because you just hear he's just one of those great actors, right?
Dick
And
Smith did the
of course he's
incredible
in this
makeup,
movie.
though, making him look older. Remember that?
Yeah,
Dick
yeah.
Smith's eye makeup really aged.
That's one of those rare times where somebody got it spot on as to what he was going to look like in 30 years or whatever.
And he did.
because
Isn't
that
that weird?
way it
He
looks
really
like
looks
he,
like that.
Because that way it looks like he basically aged from 39 to 70, and then he stayed that way the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Isn't that the thing that sucks? Waking up and the guy's gone.
Well,
left you some money on the nightstand.
You're used to that, though, Gary, aren't you? You're used to
Hey,
that.
stop it! Private stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Jesus,
we're
Just
overlooking
look
a
at
lot
these
of what he's
outfits
doing.
from Ron Cobb. I mean, look at this. Look at that outfit. Just take a moment to admire.
it is absolutely
the
Ron
beauty of the
Cobb's design.
detail
Yeah,
of the costumes.
And it's the way that shot is framed is so similar to like samurai films of the like 60s and such, where there's a lot of those traveling samurai movies like Zatoichi and things like that. You get a lot of over the shoulder shots of the lone traveler on the road with like the wagon coming up in the foreground and whatever. That is a classic samurai movie shot.
yeah. The two that I followed, by the way, Razor, is what is his name? Man and Cub and Zatoichi.
Lone Wolf and Cub.
Lone Wolf and Cub and Zatoichi, because they're great film series.
They're awesome.
I actually have them, by the way, on my hard drive that I can just pull up whenever I want.
Criterion Collection released amazing Blu-ray collections of both.
I got to tell you, all the way up into the 2000s, man, Criterion was the bomb when it came to doing cuts of films and processing.
Yeah,
John
but meanwhile,
Kodak.
getting back to the before we get to the narrative that we see right now,
here's one of my favorite characters.
there was a scene we just passed
yeah.
by with John Milius letting his stance on the contemporary hippies be known.
Oh yeah,
we'll
with
see
the,
more of that
the
coming up,
Moonies
too. Yeah,
it was Conan's version of the Moonies. Does anybody remember the Moonies back in the 80s?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I love this Stonehenge like place with the
well, and Mako's
warriors
great because he's like, I am a great warrior. I will. He's trying to come up with all
Okay,
this
question I
things.
have here: was he created because of the fact that Arnold couldn't do the dialogue, the narration?
You gotta have him. You gotta have someone to carry the plot forward and kind of contextualize. I think he also kind of fulfills a little bit of a C-3PO kind of right. He's sort of along for the ride.
The Greek chorus.
Yes, he's got that thing.
He's a little bit Yoda, a little, that kind of character.
By the way, he's the best Master Splinter ever in the 2017
yes.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
May he rest in peace.
Well, that voice of his, that's the thing.
Incredible.
As for a narrator, they needed a narrator in the beginning because in one of in the first Conan story, you have like this introduction, and this is the same introduction that we have in the opening of this movie, like here, in the years between when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arias and all that whole thing, right? That is in one of the Conan stories, in the first Conan story, and since then, it's in all of the Conan comics. Like for instance, how like in the Spider-Man comics, you have like this very short little blurb, just giving new readers on the very first page. You have like a very brief summary what Spider-Man is about. You have the same thing with the Hulk, with the Punisher. In Conan, it was this line right here, like in the years between when these oceans drank Atlantis, and like this whole thing ending with an age undreamed of. It was something that was really popularized by Marvel Comics because they had it printed right there in every single comic. And because this movie was very much so influenced by the comics, it wouldn't have happened without the comics. So this was one of the things that was decreed right away. The movie has to open with that quote. So they knew that they needed a narrator. Now that you would carry on with the narrator afterwards and even bring him into the movie, that was Milius. That was a result of Arnold not being the strongest thespian. So he knew that he's going to need to have others carry the movie. In some scenes, it's going to be helpful to have someone straight up narrate what's going on. Like for instance, a romance, you give those lines.
You should probably pause this for a second.
Pushing the plot along, you give that to King Osric. But when you don't have those characters, when you have no one interacting with him directly, when he's just a slave and there shouldn't be any that kind of interaction with Conan, the hell do you do? That's when you figure, I know, narrator. And then he made the decision to do more narration and to not just have it straight up separate from the movie, but to bring it into the movie. Well, let's have a chronicler and let's have him in the movie and make it part of it. So that was John Milius' call.
Well, they basically filled out the cast with veteran and very strong actors. Like at that time, James Earl Jones was a very well-known strong actor. You had Max von Sydow. You had, or Sidhouse, however you say his name. I've heard it said so many different ways, so I just keep saying it differently every time.
Discount John Cleese. It does kind of, I do expect him to be like, there are some who call me Tim?
Tim? Yeah, he says it like a question. Tim?
I would like to show you that I can save you money on car insurance stuff. Yeah. I paused it here for a reason because I know Andre would have a thing or two to say about this bit here.
I paused it, but somebody hit play again.
It was me, but this scene is better because you can look the intention on each of the characters.
Yeah, this guy thinks he's getting a little backdoor. Yeah,
Arnold knows exactly what he's up to too.
Yeah. That was the perfect freeze from right there. When you just look at the. I mean, this is why Arnold was cast. You see his smile there. He's on top of the situation, but at the same time, he can look like this farm boy. This hill boy who's like innocent, doesn't really know anything. But this cult here, he's going to show him the ways of the world right now, he thinks. But yeah, of course, this was an opportunity for John Milius to let his stance be known on a number of issues, all at the same time in one fell swoop in one scene, which is fun to move. But of course, it's all kinds of problematic today, because there you have like some gay
big time
and stuff like that. But again, it only goes to show why this was the time to make the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you think John Milius really hated camels then?
Right, clearly.
Goddamn desert rats.
Well, maybe he got seasick on one or something.
Yeah, but no, this is clearly his feeling on the hippie movement and some other free love movements and such. It may even be a little shade at some religion too, if you want to think about it that way. Could be, but no, like there's a lot of Milius's.
Milius was very Jewish, so I don't think like he had like too much on like religion as a whole, but I do believe he had some very strong issues with the way that cults practiced.
Right, this was a bigger thing
the religious at the time when this was made.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the years leading up to it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's probably true, but like. Anyway, you can hit play now, probably.
Yeah.
Because John Cleese is going to get his ass kicked here by Arnold. I'm afraid, and I'm shy.
And I'm shy.
Don't be shy. You're a piece of meat, boy.
I suspect this guy's a power bottom. He's a power bottom.
Right?
Well, I mean, I just noticed because last night when I was watching, they were talking about the
Right.
priest robe and stuff. But I guess, yeah, you're probably right, Andre, because I don't know if a lot of that stuff had started coming out about.
Sorry, priest,
that
you're
stuff
not
yet.
a dumpy, ugly Hispanic maid.
You're not my type.
I love, despite the size differences, the clothes just fit him still.
Yeah. And again, speaking of detail, they built this whole set there, which was a fantastic set.
Probably one of the reasons you film this in Spain. They'll actually let you
Right.
do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you can do it for like 10 cents on the
And
dollar.
it's amazing set, by the way. This is your
It's a
typical.
shame they didn't let it stay.
Yeah.
It's such a typical Dino De Laurentiis set, because he loved to overspend on that stuff. He wanted to be like what's his name, the one that made all the Bible epic films of the 40s
Yes.
and 50s.
Cecil B. DeMille.
Cecil B. DeMille.
This will be what was the big one that the one that Ayn Rand got her debut or whatever in? What is that called? It's featured in the video game L.A. Noire. The set for it. It stood for the longest time.
Oh, that was one of the versions of Moses, wasn't it?
Ten
Yeah,
Commandments?
yeah.
Ten Commandments. That's what I meant.
That's
Yeah,
what I was
10
going to say,
Commandments.
but I wasn't sure. I was like, that's the
There were
obvious
two
answer.
made by DeMille. The
Yeah, he
silent
did
version,
both of them.
and then the later he made. They remade two major Bible films. That one and Ben-Hur.
Yep.
Yeah.
Both were produced by the same people. One was a silent film. The other was.
Yeah, it was just because, they wanted to do them with and then, Technicolor for.
Yeah,
Intolerance. Thank you. Intolerance is the one I was thinking of, actually.
Oh, Intolerance.
Oh, okay. No, but these sets are great. The costumes are great. Andre's been bringing it up, and so is RazorFist throughout.
Look at this costume here. This is crazy.
But that's the thing is, look at how it's compared to today. Like the overproduction of stuff makes it seem more fake, right? Like all this stuff that we see here, like the attention to detail. Look at the stitching on that. That doesn't look like it was done by a machine.
Man, 80s fantasy films in general, the better made ones anyways. Conan is up there. Another one with incredible production design is Return to Oz, which is still the best Oz film in my opinion.
I agree with you. I love that movie.
Yeah, same here.
We need to do that on a Saturday, Tom. Did you like that film?
Yeah, I dig it all right. I mean, but as far as just like the technical aspects and what it's meant in history is more even.
I'm specifically thinking about the scene with Princess Mombi with the crazy like train of spiky kind of the like headdress thing that she's kind of wearing, the big castle full of mirrors. I mean, just incredible production design in the 80s. And there's Sven. Sven. He's in so many great Arnold movies and bad Jesse the Body Ventura movies.
Yeah. But it's like even the second film has amazing production design too, considering whether you like the film or not. I mean, there's some really cool stuff in there. Like they did pay more attention to detail back then, it feels like, than they do now, at least in the sense of, plus the handmadeness of it adds to the authenticity is what I was getting at.
Especially things that were in the distant past. I mean, just compare, like, for instance, with Dungeons and Dragons, the movie today, with modern haircuts and everything. But Gerry, you were saying, sorry, I did not mean to interrupt.
No, I just wanted to point out this scene. This is one of my favorite moments in the film. Before
this is a quintessential scene here.
He's talking about, you knew me when I was a young man and I was wanting all this thing, steel, but I've discovered there's something more powerful than steel. And then he begs the girl down with a hand gesture, and she fucking falls to her death, for him. He goes, now that's strength.
Well, and he gets the riddle of steel wrong in this scene, too. And again, here's another one of the what doesn't kill you makes you stronger scenes. But that's what did anybody else think the same thing I did when he talks about being younger? Because, like, the whole thing is Thulsa Doom is supposed to have been around for 1,000 years. It's like, you weren't younger 20 years ago. What the fuck are you talking about?
That's true, because he's supposed to be ancient.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit.
The keyword there being supposed to be.
Well, the guy can turn himself into a snake. Maybe it's not so more that bullshit that he has 1,000 years.
Also, here I wanted to point this out. There's a similarity between this and Return of the Jedi, in that, like Luke, he killed somebody's pet.
If I had been born in Oklahoma, I would have started a metal band called Tulsa Doom, and I would have dressed them exactly like these guys, and that would be the backdrop to the set.
With the bad bangs and
isn't there a band called Tulsa Doom yet? That sounds like a death metal. Okay, I would think so.
See, I would have made my own bluegrass band. It would have been the Fiddle of Steel.
There totally is a metal band called.
Is there? Okay, I would think so.
And you know what? They're Norwegian.
Hey,
of course they
are.
Of course they are.
Look who's in the chat.
Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Well, that's because metal bands are like religion over there. It's like
Nick.
Andre goes to a Rammstein concert every weekend. I swear to God, it's like religion over there.
Yeah, and the years that Rammstein don't come, we go to Ramsund, which is the Norwegian Rammstein cover band.
Well, I gotta ask you, is Rammstein like a house band there now?
Well, they do sell out, just to put it that way.
There's a lot of bands.
When I say they do sell out, I mean they sell out the arenas. They are like there's
oh my God,
never an issue. With,
they're a religion there. Like Andre has gone to see more Rammstein just in the time I've known him. Like, is that all you guys do over there?
dude, black metal's huge over there. They got a place down there. I don't know if it's still there. I thought I had heard something about it closing, but Elm Street Bar in Oslo.
I've been there many times. I think
it's a big rock and roll hangout. You can literally just hang out with members of bands.
Yeah, I've been there many times. I think I haven't been out in the last couple of years because family and lockdowns and shit. I think it may be closed down now, but in my youth I'd go there all the time. So I've been in Elm Street.
It's kind of it's kind of like the Rainbow Bar and Grill of Norway a little bit.
I guess so. There's a couple of places. We also had like a really awesome bar called Kraftwerk for a limited time there. I do miss that one.
But I had you pause this because coming up here is another one that lifted straight out of a Conan story. Like it's right off of the comic book of the Savage Sword of Conan with the Tree of Sorrow. Yeah,
I remember that in the comic book. And I remember like just being blown away seeing this in live action.
Yeah. And that is from the original story, A Witch Shall Be Born, is where you have this image. And it was never the front page of any of the books, but it was the front page
Savage Court of Conan,
in the Savage Sword of Conan, yes,
which
by
I said,
Doyle, who did the art for that. And that image was like iconic. And again, this was one of the comics that Edward R. Pressman read. One of them was this issue adapting that story with that image on the front, which was one of the things that sold him to do the movie in the first place. Which is like why one of his mandates was we're going to have that scene in there because it was one of those that totally sold him on the movie in the first place.
The Tree of Woe.
The Tree of Woe. Did I call it Sorrow? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Sorrow. By the way, I meant to do this for you, Andre, in your honor. I always play this for you or for Jace.
Hey, Sweden! Not Swedish, Mac, the Norwegian.
There you go.
They do that in Hell on Wheels.
I was gonna say it's a running gag in Hell on Wheels.
Yeah.
But here we go, having another hero trope.
I love this scene. This is one of my favorite moments, Tom. Right here is when he's running across the desert.
Well, and you've got, like, again, you had the falling into the pit and coming out, which is a typical hero trope that even what's his face who did the Many Faces of Heroes book or whatever, Joseph Campbell brings up as an average thing, the rebirth of the hero. And then here you have the straight up Jesus allegory.
That's actually a good point. Saint Michel, by the way, he says James Earl Jones was well cast because he's not a small man.
No,
which I think is actually true. Yes, he's not a big muscle-bound guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, but he's got presence, and
he is an imposing physical presence.
And that fucking voice, man. The voice is what sells it, right? It's that voice that he has that's you believe he's Thulsa Doom just by what he's saying.
Although after Field of Dreams, I just keep expecting him to go off on some jag about the history of baseball.
Saint Michael Archangel,
that was a different James Earl Jones by
from this channel.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the James Earl version for this movie be "If you kill it, they will come"?
Yes.
A lot of baseball in this version for some reason.
Unlikely the Tree of Woe would exist. It's in the middle of a desert. People would use it as firewood. No. as someone who lives in the desert, I assure you there are many random, dried, dead, gnarled trees.
Well, not only that, back then all you needed somebody to say, you see that? Yeah, that's the Tree of Woe. Yeah. If you fuck with it, you will die.
Yeah,
and people will believe that. So, like,
hey, you know that guy who turns into a big fucking snake? Yeah, he'll eat your face.
And by the way, one of the questions I was always curious about with this version of Thulsa was Thulsa a snake first and became a man?
Well, that was where he's joking about the 1,000 years shit. Is he full of shit or what's he talking about there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or did they summon these people?
That is something that is from the Cull stories. The implication here is that he really is 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
You will note that James Earl Jones, he's a black man. He does not have these bright green eyes. He does not have that straight hair. The reason they fitted him with that wig and those contact lenses was specifically so that he would look alien and otherworldly,
right?
Like the last member of a race who has died out. And again, this is something that is in the Cull stories, where you have snake men who can morph into men and be their doubles, essentially. Now, are they snakes first and then became men? Well, here's like the thing: they're a different race. It's not that they were snakes that became men at all. They are evolved from snakes in a sense. Now, of course, there's a different version here because he is someone that like becomes a snake.
That's what I was wondering, if they just summon it and they're really not 1,000. Like that's what I was asking.
So that's
you're answering my question though. So yeah.
But the idea is that he really is part of a different breed of humankind, one that did not evolve from apes, but from snakes.
Coupled with the wig choice, kinda, and the snake theme, kinda a little bit vaguely Egyptian, sort of.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Rambam nails it in this comment. Doom is a Volusian serpent man.
Right.
Yeah. Volusia is basically the age of Cull. And one of the, in my opinion, the single greatest stories that Robert E. Howard ever wrote is not the Conan story, but a Cull story called The Shadow Kingdom. And that is the story where Cull learns of basically a conspiracy. He learns of, I don't even know how to put this. Basically, he learns of a deep state within his kingdom where you have
reptilians.
Literally reptilians. Where you have reptilians.
You can tell they're hiding everywhere.
They're putting black helicopters in our water.
Yeah, taking a reptilian
outside the window right now.
Who are all of the elite in society. Many of them are infiltrated by reptilians.
Your neighbors are
reptiles in the Shadow Kingdom, and
they have a reference to that in the game Conan Exiles, I believe. Actually.
Oh, cool. Well, and that's kind of the new timeline for this stuff. But I made these guys pause it here because for two reasons. First, this scene here, I wanted to ask a little bit about now, because he didn't necessarily die on the Tree of Woe, but is he under some kind of bad spell? Is that why they have to kind of break him out of this, or what's the deal here?
The way I take it is he is dying.
Is he dying? Yeah.
Yes. He's dying because he just opened his eyes to look.
Because then she makes her Faustian pact here by giving him life, basically.
She gives her life for him. Is what she does, and I love that.
Exactly. She's like you shadow people, give him back his soul and take mine instead. So yeah, it's kind of a Faustian deal in a sense. So in this,
Mako even says it has a heavy price or whatever.
Yeah. So he's not dead, but he's dying, and his soul is bound for the underworld. That's kind of like what was going on there. But from her love, because this goes back to come back later, she loves him so much that she's willing to give up her own life to save him, and as we'll see later, to come back.
Because she even says it in her dialogue that I would come back from hell to fight at your side. I love that. Everything's foreshadowed in dialogue.
Now, the real question is, how did Subotai got Conan from the Tree of Woe to Akira's house? Because he was on foot.
He's got big feet, though. Martin.
Conan weighs like 2 Subotai.
Martin, I hate you.
But, I mean, are we saying that Conan is such a big thief that he stole her heart?
And as for Subotai, I think you're just going to have to go with that small dudes can sometimes be really, really strong.
Yep. He just rolled him down the dunes.
I wanted to ask also why you guys thought he went off on his own earlier too. Obviously for his own personal reasons, because he wanted to go out and get the people that killed his family. Why he left?
He wanted to protect them.
That's what I was gonna say. Is because she just said we have more than I've ever had in my life. Just stay here. We don't need to do this. That kind of stuff. Is that what you took to? Is that he left her with everything? He's like, here, just kind of her and his friend to stay there.
This is my fight. This is my fight. I got to go deal with this. I don't want to.
But they weren't going to let that happen, obviously, and here they showed up. Yeah, we just kind of skipped past that, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, this orgy scene's crazy. I was like, how old was I when this came out? 16, I think, and I was just like, boobs.
Hollywood was big on orgy scenes at the time. Wasn't this around the time of fucking Caligula? And shit?
Well, a couple of years after, but yeah,
it was within a year of each other.
But in this
Bob
orgy,
Guccione.
but everybody is dressed in this orgy, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, but everybody was having orgies back then. It's like if you didn't get an invitation to the orgy, then you felt left out.
I got to tell you, my favorite moment here is when Anima saw the hand in the soup, and she goes, "Ooh!" She made an audible.
Well, remember these people. They are. Maybe there's more, but certainly they're going to have like the recipes from Thulsa Doom, and his snake people were descended from snakes, so it's not really cannibalism if they eat humans.
True. See, that looks like something right out of one of the comics or the book cover books, like all that. That is an amazing shot that we just went past there with him on the throne.
I will say I'm really impressed with this transformation, like how they do it first with the eyes, and then they cut it at just like the right time when it's like otherworldly, but before it becomes really ridiculous.
It's kind of funny because this is around the same time we got American Werewolf in London and The
Howling.
The Howling, thank you. And this gets overlooked in comparison to a more
transformation scene. Also, I want to point out that Rick Baker was the artist for The Howling, but he had a promise with his friend Landis, to go do An American Werewolf in London, and so he left his protege in charge, who just happened to be what's his name that worked on The Thing and The Howling. No, worked on The Thing.
Rob Bottin.
Rob Bottin. And so Rob Bottin, who'd worked on Piranha and other stuff, really got to showcase his work. But they both did the same thing in that movie, the use of the stretching of the face and the bladders.
Yep.
But Bottin's was not as good. His was excessive use of bladders in the face, and it was bad. Whereas Rick Baker nailed it.
Yeah, and I'm not seeing any familiar names in here to see who did the special effects thing.
I don't think anybody we knew did the effects.
But yeah, no, I'm just saying, it does get overlooked, and most likely just because those movies came out around the same time. But it is a cool
throne shot. That throne shot was Frazetta-esque. No, not nearly enough female asses.
Add a few more butts, and then it would be.
Yeah, more butts, then it would be perfect. Jabba the Hutt
cool, though.
I mean, that doesn't remind you of Jabba, and this was shot just before the throne room scene with Jabba.
Yeah, and there is no way George Lucas did not watch this movie.
I'm telling you.
Well, him and Milius were
you
besties,
had a window of about 1 month.
Well, maybe not besties, but they were good friends.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, there was a window of 30 days where I think Lucas may have seen that and borrowed from this.
Then again, they were pretty close. I mean, they worked really closely together on Apocalypse Now for years.
They were close friends. This is
really
really
speed up.
This is one of the most Conan scenes in the movie, in my opinion. Once the Conan theme,
between this and the robbery,
nobody has talked about it yet. Basil Polidorus, who is a fellow Missourian, he's from up north of us here in Kansas City. I love his music here.
He's not Greek.
He is Greek, but he's from
his
Missouri.
family is, but yeah, he's of Greek descent.
Kansas City, Missouri.
Greek from Greece.
He does for these kind of movies and shit like RoboCop and stuff what Ennio Morricone did for.
They all borrowed from him, by the way.
Yeah.
Tom, absolutely, because the Total Recall theme, all of them had that Wagnerian heavy drum themes for Arnold because it's perfect for him. And if you look at all the big Arnold movies, the other composers, I think they completely borrowed from.
Well, and I think Polidor, I don't know for sure, but I thought I read somewhere where how he kind of builds his music. Like this was built up from the drumming, the boom, 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 boom.
He one of those big.
And then same thing with RoboCop. It was literally somebody just banging on one of those anvils, and like the clink, 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 and then he just built it from there off of that kind. He'll find like a real world sound to build it off, basically, or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, hey, that was neat. 20th Century Fox logo.
Yeah, which is weird because they didn't release it here in the U.S., but yeah. We know where you guys got this.
One funny moment that happens in the commentary track for this movie is Alden's like, "Oh, this is such a great movie. You should have done that one." And he goes, Arnold, did do another one."
This is it when he squares them and he goes, "You."
The toxicity of this just oozes out.
I just fucking love that, dude. Yes.
Yeah, and the music is also absolutely fantastic. It's a shame that they botched it in the sound mixing of the Blu-ray release. So I just hope that they fix that in the upcoming, or at least 4K release,
or at least have the original soundtrack to go with whatever new version they have on there.
And by the way, the littler giant guy, when he hits the pillar with the hammer and it cracks, and he looks at his hammer like, "I did that." That was one of the great moments watching it in the theater. It's like, oh,
you're lucky that you're able to do that. I'll say this is
there it is. There's that look. It's like I did that.
I did that.
And here's we're getting ready for the exit from the cave, and it led to one of the stuntmen having to be hospitalized because Sandal nailed him with the sword when she goes up on the wall and comes up underneath. And she hit him with the sword and cut his throat.
Ooh. Yeah, I heard about that.
Well, and she almost lost a pinky in that.
Yeah, she got nailed with the sword too. So
Yeah, they didn't have quite the safety requirements.
Safety regulations and shit then.
Yeah, here's the guy. This is the guy that gets nailed as she comes back up and over him, nails him with that sword. And I know it's not, but I remember as a kid going, "Oh, I wonder if that's his real blood spraying."
Well, but if it's a stunt dude, he might have just kept going, and then afterwards
He did. He kept going.
I was gonna say they like use it because a lot of times that's what those guys will say is like use the real one. Yeah, like like in Rambo, that scene when Sylvester Stallone falls and he cracks a rib. That is his actual rib getting cracked. Because he insisted on using that take because his reaction was so genuine. Yeah.
Absolutely real. I love this bit of dialogue right here. He's staring off in the distance like he's seeing something. I love his delivery here.
And also the composing of the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, who is his DP on this? Because I love the photography on this film.
Let me look.
Oh, I should know.
I have to check out
I should too. Duke Callahan. He did The Accuser. Jeremiah Johnson worked on some Miami.
Oh, the Robert Mitchum film.
I believe so. A lot of TV.
He did Jeremiah Johnson, for God's sakes.
Yeah, those are his.
Yeah,
I love
this was his second last movie. His next movie was Love Line. So of the movies that he made, this is the highlight. This is
he may not. Let's say, how long did he live? Oh no, he lived till 2002.
Yeah, I looked here. He did a lot of work on Miami Vice, which was really well.
That's
shot.
what I just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he worked
Tales
with
of the Gold Monkey too. Oh my God, he worked on Tales of the Gold Monkey, man. That pedo. Whoops.
This is a sad part.
Now. The sad scene.
Oh, that was good. I like that. Thank you. And again, Arnold says nothing here. The thing I like about Conan is he's not a very talky character to begin with, even in the books.
Well, what's he supposed to say? Fuck you, Cram, for taking it from me. You know, like
to be or not to be.
Not to be.
Not to be.
And that was my complaint about the remake with Momoa, was they made him like a 16-year-old girl on prom night. He wouldn't shut up. Just kept talking all the time.
Well, and if there's anyone you don't want to talk, it's that fucking dirt.
Well, there's two parts to this, right? Like, and this is why
that's good.
Certain actors like Clint Eastwood and him and other ones who don't say a lot in movies, Bronson, were big everywhere because they were easily translated. Because you didn't have to. They didn't say.
Oh, this here, for an example, he won't cry, so I cry for him.
Yeah, that's a great scene there. Yeah,
but that's explaining who Conan is. You know, that he's a man who keeps everything inside.
They are too, exactly. Yeah,
that's why he's toxic to them, because he's a stoke man, which we can't have in the modern day.
Which, by the way, leads to another thing, because there's a line in here that is in my list of favorite dialogue ever delivered by an actor, is Arnold when he does his prayer before the battle.
Bear with you, Cram.
I've never prayed to you. I don't have the tongue for it.
To hell with you. I love it.
Kind of reminds me of the bit.
No one will remember who died here today.
It's like, you don't help me today. Fuck you, Joe Boo.
Yeah, fuck you, Joe Boo.
It's like, fuck you, Cram.
And I really thought he delivered it well. I liked it.
It was really well. It was perfect delivery. And again, that's something that irks fans of the original books and the comics, because Cimmerians, or Cimmerians as you mistakenly call it, they don't pray. Crom is a good god. More gods should be like Crom, with more followers. Basically, in the original source material, Crom does one thing for you. He breathes courage into you at birth, and after that you go your own way and you do whatever the hell you want with your life. It's up to you what you want to do with it. It makes no difference to Crom. If you ever call on him, if you ever dare ask him for anything else, he'll send doom your way, not blessings. So basically, he's the god of self-reliance. manage it on your own. Don't
Which,
bother
in my
me.
opinion, is a good god.
That's what I'm saying. He's a good
Yeah.
god. More
And
people
it feeds
follow
well into
Crom.
the riddle of steel as well, right? Like,
Yeah, it does. So that he's never prayed to Crom before, probably because his father wasn't able to finish his teachings about Crom before he died, so he has like incomplete understanding. But that being said, as far as like where prayers to a god like Crom goes, very good prayer.
And well, and that goes back to that scene earlier when they were fighting over their gods, right? Like,
oh yeah, it was him and Jerry. That's a great scene, dude. My god laughs at you.
I could have just answered, your god doesn't care whether you live or die, which would also be true.
I love this trap. I love everything about this scene, and Mako walking around with the piles of armor on.
Well, Mako's just amazing in general.
Yeah, I would say, and I have to agree with you because you said it earlier, Tom. This film, or was it you, Andre? One of you two said that this film's casting was perfect.
I think we both did, but
yeah, everyone says that. I mean, that's just that's
just
how it is.
he just
Everyone
makes
is
me
so
laugh.
Look at him. There's a throwback here to the Seven Samurai.
I was just gonna say that is like going off of what RazorFist and they were saying. That is something right out of one of those.
And it's actually that clicks with me with Seven Samurai when that scene when he finds all the armor.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was Toshiro Mifune that found the armor, right?
Yeah.
And there we have Valerie Kvennesten as something like that. I don't recall her name exactly. Valerie Kvennesten, something like that. As the daughter of King Osric in one of her final roles before her untimely passing.
Oh shit! What did she die of?
I think it was a car crash or something.
Oh,
Damn.
man.
I mean, this was this was before a certain medical treatment, which
Yeah, back in the 80s, because I was an EMT in the 80s, and I remember one of the first things we taught is that life expectancy for a traumatic amputation is like 17 to 20%, much higher. It's like 70% now. You have a good chance of surviving it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here it is, the prayer.
Yes!
You.
This is a great fight scene right here. This is a great fight scene.
And this is a film that caused them a lot of trouble because the animal activists were saying that they abused horses in this scene, which isn't true.
Yeah.
They did your standard stunt, with the horses, and it was the man taking the brunt of it. They're saying they were tripping them.
Well, but that's what they did. I mean, this is what Hollywood always did. Whenever they need like a horse to fall, they would trip the horse, and more often than not, the history of Hollywood, that horse would fall and it would not get up again, because it would typically like break a leg or something like that. You basically know, like when you do like vet school, you can kind of like skim over the chapter on horses. Because if there's anything wrong, pretty much no matter what, the answer is always shoot them. So the most of the horses you see in like any old Western movies, whenever they fell, that horse wasn't getting up again. So it wasn't anything particular in this movie. It just did things to tried true.
Well, Terry Leonard, by the way, Andre, came out and said that they didn't trip any of the horses in this movie. That
some are actually trained to fall. Yeah, I was going to say
trained to fall.
It's the same kind of thing. We get it around here. And sorry, Gary, I just got to say because I saw it the other day. It sort of reminded me of it.
Yeah,
there's this place where they train horses, and I have to have a sign out there now that says, "Do not call the police. The horse is not dead. They do lay down sometimes." And I see it all the time because there's always this horses just laying because they train them out there. They put them out by the highway so they get used to the vehicles. And sometimes they'll just want to take a nap, so they just lay the fuck down. They look like they're dead, but they're just laying there. And horses are very easily trained for stuff like that, for stunts and such. So, like, I mean, a lot of times when people think that they're getting hurt, they're not so much. they're trained to know how to take those kind of rolls and tumbles and such like that. So,
well, exactly. Now I know you guys know who Terry Leonard is. He's best known for being Harrison Ford's stunt double for many Blade Runner, Indiana Jones, all that shit. Terry was the stunt coordinator for this film, and he's the one who coordinated all this entire scene. And that's the scene that they were complaining about right there, that the horse was tripped, and they're saying, no, the horse was trained to do that. It is not tripped.
Some horses do that. It seems like around the 60s, 70s, the Westerns started to have more horses that could do that.
Yeah.
And this is oh my God, when he can't get up.
Yeah, this shit's right out of a Kurosawa.
You remember
I swear to God, yes, it is.
Speaking of which, you remember a few years ago, the big controversy, just to give you guys an idea of how freaking serious they take the horse safety now. Remember that HBO show Luck with Dustin Hoffman and the David Milch show, same guy who did Deadwood? That they shut that whole show down, even though it was one of their biggest rating successes, all because of some horses weren't being cared for, or they had to put a couple down because they fell down during the racing scenes. And what did they canceled the whole damn show.
God damn, man. By the way, I love the way Conan just looks at him here, studying him. Oh, you look like you're in pain.
What if I push? Does that hurt?
Why couldn't we have that happen with Rings of Power? I mean,
it
almost be
kind of did.
Look how big this cocksucker is.
They did kill a horse anyway, so maybe if they kill a few more.
Yeah, maybe they tried. Maybe that was like their plan. Like, okay, you know what? It worked for that series. We really have to get out of this. So just like, let's see if we can do a loophole here and kill off some horses.
I hate laughing about it, but yeah.
They'd have to do more than what they did because that crap's still coming. Sadly,
exactly. I want to go over this shot again when Sandal Bergman comes back. Valeria. Yeah. This is one of those great moments in film history where it goes straight fantasy, and I didn't care. I loved it.
Well, there's been a
this
lot of it.
Actually is straight from the original source material. That is from the original Robert E. Howard story, Queen of the Black Coast.
Yes.
And this is the story. This story actually takes place over the course of 2 years.
There she is.
In which Conan, he meets the pirate queen Bailit, and they have a 2-year romance.
Valeria is based on her.
Yes. And then Bailit dies towards the end of the story, but she comes back from the dead to save him. And that's exactly what happens here. It's ironic because they use the name Valeria, and Valeria is also an original Robert E. Howard character. She appears in the story Red Nails. So not in the story. So again, here she's like a new character. So because basically the character that you have right here, who's basically like another thief running around, that's similar to Valeria of the story Red Nails. But that she has a romance and she dies and she comes back from the dead. That's basically what happened to Bailit. And Bailit is Conan's one true love. This is like the lost love that stays with him for the rest of his life.
For the rest of his existence, yeah, I get it.
He never really had like any romance with Valeria in the original stories.
Now, I want to point out one thing, one little complaint, is that the sword fighting is so beautiful to watch in this film, and it's violent, but there are moments where they're just hitting swords and not trying to hit each other. This is one of those moments. Arnold is looking at the other guy's sword, striking the sword, not going to strike the man. And when he's doing a parry, it's the same thing. Only weakness in this film that I saw was in this fight right here, where you see that. But still, great fucking sword fighting in this movie.
Indeed. And some amazing swords as well.
And they're heavy. And it's functional. It's functional swordplay too. It's not, ever since the millennium, really, you get this kind of balletic, kind of Hong Kong inspired sort of, kind of like what lightsaber fights turned into in the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, basically.
We're at 159.
Partly gymnastics.
No, we're fine on time. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
No, you're right. It
I
feels
put a
like somebody
message-
could lose a finger or two because they were pretty much whacking away at each other like they could lose a finger or two.
Yeah. And this is such a dramatic moment because that's his father's sword. He just took that Atlantean sword and broke his father's sword with it.
Yep.
And I love that moment.
And that goes right back to the riddle of steel.
Yep.
Because this is something that comes back to haunt Conan later. We'll see that moment later when after the final confrontation, after Thulsa Doom is no more, he sits and he thinks and he contemplates after having looked at his broken father's sword. Remember what his father told him. This is steel. This you can trust. But still, that sword broke. So he couldn't trust it in the end.
His trust was
father
broken.
Must have been wrong about the answer to the riddle.
Oh, the snake arrow. The snake arrow.
I love the snake arrow.
There we go.
Father.
Such betrayal.
But yeah, the riddle of steel, as you were saying, Andre.
Yeah. So this is like some of the beauty in the movie here, that the steel that his father said would never let him down, that steel broke. So his father must have been wrong. Thulsa Doom, he says, well, the secret of the riddle of steel is flesh. But he can't have been right either, because the father's broken sword was still able to decapitate Thulsa Doom.
Yep.
So he wasn't wrong. He wasn't right either.
So what is the strength? It's the strength of will.
Exactly. And this goes right back to the quote from Nietzsche in the very beginning of the movie, and that we have seen so many examples of. Conan has faced so much hardship. There have been so many challenges thrown at him, but whether on its own or with the help of his others, he persevered and he managed through all of them, and he came back stronger for it, which is the central theme of the movie here.
That quote was so iconic and attached to Conan. Gosh, I remember vividly when they did the live action series in the 90s. They advertised it with there was just the video of the sword being forged, kind of like the opening of the Conan film, and it just I remember the advertisements were, "What does not kill you makes you stronger," with movie trailer voice guy, right? That was the entire ad campaign, right, for that show before it debuted.
Boy,
I like that you see her there, that she is there to help betray Thulsa Doom, and I like that.
Yeah. And this also is a fantastic scene right here, where Thulsa Doom looks at Conan, tries to hypnotize him, manipulate him, but Conan is too strong for it. Even though he has a point when he says, "I am your father now because I made you." Yeah, you may have made him, but does that make him his father? Well, it's only in the most.
I like the fact that Conan does stop for a moment and ponder that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I came here to cut your head off.
I thought you were Luke's father.
Well,
did you cheat on my mother?
Yeah,
he also
it's a
said
Star
something
Wars
similar.
connection.
He also said something similar to him when he had him in like the one, what do you ever call it, the throne room thingy there, where they were kicking the shit out of him too. He said something similar to that effect. Yeah, when he realized who he was.
Yeah, he did say, "You killed my mother and you killed my father," and he still got the crap kicked out of him.
I think he said something like, "You killed my mother and you killed my father." No, something like that.
Yeah, more like that. Not like me. I can't do
people.
that.
I think he said that too, didn't he?
Yes.
Killed my
Yeah.
people.
You killed my people.
You killed all my people.
You took my father's sword.
You took my father's
sword.
I love how calm he is in this scene, though. He just turns and goes, "You're here. You've come to me."
I just love that they show him throw the head and it starts rolling down the stairs.
Yeah, it's
And the sound of it. That's the actual sound.
Thud.
It wasn't a sound effect. It's so awesome that.
And what's also interesting is that in the original version of the movie poster, like that iconic movie poster for this movie,
oh yeah,
by Renato Casaro, where he has like his sword held aloft with Valeria by his feet and everything like that. In the original version of that poster, he was holding the severed head of Tulsa Doom.
Wow.
Tom, please, you have to say it. You have to read this.
Tom, I believe this is for you.
And by the way, here's I'm going to put the poster up so you can see. This is without the head, but that's the poster you're talking about.
You killed the chopper. Actually, I have the original version right here. It's very small. Yes.
If you give me a second, I'll find you the original
You
one.
probably have the better one.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I'm sharing one version.
There
of
he's
the
trying
camera,
to
yeah.
hypnotize him. And Arnold's like, fuck you,
You have
asshole.
such beautiful eyes.
I love the blood in this movie. The blood just sprays.
But you're not a maid.
Oh, nowadays you
again-
would get all that shitty CGI blood that splatters too much.
Doesn't look right.
The fake
I
shit.
gotta tell you, this again, RazorFist is a throwback to the classic samurai films because
Yep.
they were the ones who started the spraying blood with sword fighting.
Definitely. Yeah.
And that goes all the way back to right in the area of the Seven Samurais when they started doing that shit.
Well, it was Sanjuro was the big one with it because originally they just had a little thing planned, but it was overcranked. So when the blood went out, it just splurred huge, and the initial was like, "Oh, we didn't get it." And Kurosawa was like, "No, we got it. That's perfect."
Yeah, it's only certain movies, and it's not even every Kurosawa film. It's like some of his movies are kind of that way. You watch, for example, we were talking about Zatoichi earlier.
Right.
Those movies don't even have blood. Right, it's like he brushes his sword across the midsection of the guy, and they don't really show anything terribly graphic.
That is, they use that. I think that's in again the Seven Samurai. There's a scene where the two samurai fight, two Ronin, and he does a sweep slice across the midsection, and it takes a split second for the blood to spray. And I like that. I really liked that. It didn't erupt immediately.
And in the great samurai film masterpiece, Revenge of the Ninja. But
yes.
Good one.
Revenge of the Ninja. Sho Kosugi, man. Let's give some love to that guy.
Yeah.
And also this scene right here, he basically throws like this torchlight to the castle right up here to the set. Note one little thing. He actually misses. He hits the wall and it falls down. And they were going to do it again, but what happened was that the set still caught on fire. And
It caught on fire. I was explaining that to Anima that it really caught on fire.
Yeah.
And it
So
burned
they had
down.
to use it, even though it didn't hit where they wanted to. Like they wanted it to come up on the balcony and set fire there, but it just, missed, but got the job done. But it makes it more realistic, though. Like, in reality, you throw something like that, it may not hit exactly where you want it to. And that was the end for that set. As a shame of that was, because it would be awesome if that set was still there, so you could go and visit it.
Maybe they could do a Sad Hill and fans get together and rebuild it.
Oh, there's the movie that's never going to exist.
I bet you it's still out there. I bet you.
Yeah. And that right here, the ending you just saw there for a second, that was the end of the extended version that was made around the year 2000. It was never shown in theaters. This is the version that was put straight on DVD. And this was meant to promote the movie King Conan, Crown of Iron, where you have the new outro by Mako saying that he's going to be king, and that story shall also be told. That was never there in the original theatrical version.
Yeah. And how long did they cock tease that movie? I mean, my God.
I just got
That was one-
goosebumps just talking about it.
I was hearing about King Conan when I first heard about Conan, right? Like they were teasing it back then when I was a kid.
Yeah, but there's basically three stories to it, or three eras to it. One was back in the 80s and 90s. Then the studio wanted to do a part 3, but Arnold didn't want to. Then it was him that was the holdup. That didn't change until the very late 90s, early 2000s. That's when Arnold was like, yeah, okay, I might be interested in this. When his career started to wane, as Hollywood just kind of changed around him, then he was like mildly interested. That's when he did the commentary track for this DVD release, which has that commentary track has been in every
that's a comp
release. Yeah,
that's not finished artwork. That's a comp.
That is a comp, but I also have this, which Andre sent me.
Yeah.
Which is
there you go. Now that's not a comp. That's finished.
And
artwork.
also notice, if you zoom in on that, look at the face. It's no longer quite Arnold's face because this is the original sketch. The official poster that came later is a paint over of this one, where literally he just painted over the head, so you can see that that's why the arm is in that position, as if he's holding something.
It's holding
over, removing the head, and then he made the face of the character look more like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But this is the original version of the poster
because it still looks like Sandow.
Yeah. Because this was from when everyone was cast, and this was made when the movie was filming.
That's beautiful, dude.
Well, this was just one of several possible posters that they went with, and it was the paint over version of this that became the key art, and the one that they went with for the primary poster.
I'm sure we'll see some more of those in that upcoming book that's coming out here soon. I don't know if you saw that yet, Andre.
Yeah.
Oh man, we've reached the end of the show, guys. I want to thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it, Andre, Tom, as always, but. RazorFist, thanks, dude. I appreciate it, dude. More than you know. It's good to see you, 70s. I missed you while you were gone.
I'll be back. Oh, wait a minute. I'm back.
You are back. I want to thank you.
By the way, my line, motherfucker.
By the way, before we sign off, what is the runtime on that movie?
Just over 2 hours, like 2:09, something like that.
Yeah,
the extended cut.
And
it goes quickly, in my opinion.
Never feels like that when you watch it.
Yeah, it goes quickly.
It doesn't. It hauls ass, and 2 hours for a fantasy epic, not very long at all, especially by today's standards. Just a great exemplar of you don't need to be quite so decompressed when you're making movies. I wish modern filmmakers would take more notes from films like Conan.
Well, they spend too much time on backstory, and backstory is not essential to a character-driven story. You find out who the character is through their actions. That's how you find out who a character is, not through their backstory.
Well, that's the beauty of Conan is it's all character moments just driving the story through, and just the bare minimum of what you need to know. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the tendency in films today, as you guys have said, is they feel they have to explain everything in excruciating detail. For every character.
It is.
I've always said the audience is idiot. They really
emphasize excruciating again.
Yeah,
that's what my problem with the writing today is. But I wanted to thank Das Wolfer for being here, Shanatsky, Brandon for showing up, and of course my good buddy Stephen for being here, and Martin for being the right side of my brain. I want to go through the list of everybody here: D. Bud Martin, Penny, Scribelight, Slasher Fred, Hex Allen Comics, Lady V Elements, War Monkey, the Peter Venkman fan site, also Venkman's girl, same person. Farnsworth, Read by Nation, E. Clay Thomason, Soul Assassin, D. Panzak, Everest Productions, The Padawannabe, let's see, Lord Thoth, all hail Lord Thoth, Darth Plato, it sounds like Play-Doh, Bush McFadden, Andy Morrow, Rob Biller, Mecha J, Mecha Heine Ho, I can't help it, it always pops in my head when I say it, The Basco Scenario, Jim Watari, let's see, The Common Nerd, Cavaltino, Cavalryman Che. Boy, you say that 5 times really quick. Brandon, of course, who's also on the show with us right now. Kappa Catania, Vimarane. Am I saying it right, dude? Somebody help me with that name. Anyone, any of you fuckers, help me with that name. I do not know how to say that name. Monkey Jeebus, Fletcher Williams, of course, the always angry Don Ecker. I love you, man. Matthew Merrick, St. Michelle Archangel, Adam Wofford, John Codex. Let's see, anybody else? 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser was here. WG, Ram Bam 3000.
Brightest Day, audiobox,
Brightest
science
Day.
fiction. What's the name?
Anima Confusa. Our Muslim uncle was here. Verity Princess, Drunk Banana, Dave C., Euler Greg, Vincent de Leon, Brazil Battleground. That almost sounds like a reference to an ass, like getting a Brazilian.
Oh my God.
Connie Cleary.
Damn it, Gary.
I know. My brain. I'm sorry, guys. Jess Vadisok or Video SC.
Videos. That was
Videos.
typo.
Oh, you did a typo. Gotcha. Retro Nerd Girl was here. Awesome to see you again. Bruce Lombardo of Dick's Division. Of course, our good friend Dustin at Keto Simple. Thanks, guys, for being here today. You guys brought your A game. Andre, I would call this the second best video to your other breakdown of Conan the Barbarian.
Well, awesome. Glad to hear it. Glad you enjoy doing this.
No, I love this stuff, man. Are you kidding me? And getting to hang out with you guys is fun, you know. And RazorFist, I want to thank you for actually being here, man. Because we were all like betting you wouldn't show up.
I was here early, bitch. I was here
and
with
you were
Bell
here
Hall.
early, an hour early.
That's why I even questioned if you were the real RazorFist.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't sure I wasn't walking into a trap.
RazorFist is a god, and he's just
like RazorFist has been here for almost an hour. I'm like,
fickle
fuck you,
today.
A RazorFist is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to.
There you go.
I know how you can tell the real RazorFist. Hey, Razor, what do you think about The Witcher and its originality?
It's the most wildly original creation in the history of human civilization.
He's a replicant!
Kill him! Kill him!
I
I
knew
don't
it.
see how you could say that with a straight face, Razor. I just
I
don't.
fucking knew it. Oh.
So,
Indeed.
okay, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. We can stick around and talk for a few minutes after the show.
Or in the words of RazorFist, fuck you, I was right, fuck you, I was
Fuck
right,
you, I
fuck
was
you,
right,
I was
fuck you,
right.
I was right.
Well, spinning in the chair. Got to have the spinning chair to
Exactly,
go
yes.
with it.
And with that, we're going to end it with Porky Pig today. I'm going to do that.
That's all, folks.
Those sons of bitches. Ma, I'm doing a show.